Yo, what is going on, everybody? This is Danny and Tessa here with D&T Comics and Collectibles, and today we are bringing you guys a very, very special stream, introducing our very first interview ever on the channel, Mr. Joe from 360 Comics.
What's up, guys? How you doing?
How you doing, Joe? Oh man, so Joe.
Yes.
We have a plethora of questions to ask you.
I'm ready for it because you and I, we've known each other for quite a while now. I think you probably hopped into one of my claim sales 3 years ago at this point.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, so I'm glad we're getting on here, getting to chat a little bit.
Yeah, no, she's been talking to you with comics for about a year.
Yeah, and she caught the collecting bug a little bit too.
She did. Guilty. So, to start, I guess I'm just going to rip off the Band-Aid. How do you feel about the current comic book market?
I'm an optimist. I typically am with most markets. I work in finance for a living, and you kind of have to be an optimist. Otherwise, you end up, dragging yourself along during the bad times. But here's what I think about it. Although the numbers are significantly down, the values of books from the height of 2021, early 2022, they're still higher pretty much across the board than they were in 2019, 2018, 2017. We had a massive comic book market spike. The value of comics soared exponentially to a point where it was unsustainable. And when there's a big spike up into unsustainable territory, there's always going to be a correction. And a lot of people use the word crash. There really wasn't a crash of the comic book market. It was 2 years, pretty much since about 2.5 years about at this point, since early 2022, that the market has notched down a little bit. So just a long-term 2.5 year correction that, basically got us to where we, quote unquote, should be. The prices are, once again, higher than they ever were prior to the pandemic and prior to the comic boom, but they're not at that sky-high price that was just, quite honestly, ridiculous. And, during that time, I bought some books that I lost some money on. I bought some books that are worth significantly less now that are in my personal collection, and that's just the way it is. Markets go up and down, things go up in value, down in value. And, you got to keep a, close watch on what you're doing with your money. Should there ever be a spike like that again, which it's hard to say if there ever will be. That was kind of a perfect storm situation. But even a smaller spike, just kind of be aware and be knowledgeable and be like, this might come down at some point.
Right. Is there anything you wanted to add in here? Anything you wanted to ask? All right. Well, here, why don't we ask your first question?
Marvel or DC, and why?
Oh, this is a good one. I'm a huge Marvel fan. I definitely skew farther to Marvel than I do DC. I think that's pretty obvious by a lot of the stuff that I collect and that I post. That's for my personal collection. Reason being, it's more what I grew up on. I definitely loved Batman the Animated Series, and I am a hardcore Batman fan and Batman collector. But when it comes to the majority of things, I was watching Spider-Man, I was watching X-Men, I was watching even like the old Fantastic Four shows from the early 80s that was probably the 70s actually. Those are pretty old. Fantastic Four and Iron Man and stuff like that. And it resonated with me more. And that's the thing that I think that Marvel does better than DC is the characters, in my opinion, in Marvel are more relatable. I cannot relate to a superhuman alien with every strength imaginable. I cannot relate to a billionaire orphan who, beats people up at night. But I can relate to Peter Parker getting picked on in high school. I can relate to a lot of the X-Men characters who are these, misfit outcast characters. I think they do a better job at being just a little bit more human and real world, and not that DC doesn't have characters like that, but I think the overall group of Marvel characters are a little bit more up that alley, at least for me.
Gotcha. So I have a bit of a follow-up question for that.
Go for it.
So I know the answer to this question, but some people who might not know who you are, might not know the answer to this question. Who is your favorite Marvel character?
Oh man, yeah, this is you know this one. Nightcrawler. Nightcrawler is top tier for me. He comes just a hair ahead of Spider-Man and Batman, who are my kind of tied for number 2. But yeah, Nightcrawler, just as a kid, this like kind of silly character, played a lot of jokes, kind of a trickster character, as well as being also very serious and very like thought out and really concise and stuff when the time came for it. And in addition to that, like I grew up learning German, not like at home, but like in school. I took German, and he was a German character. And my mom spoke fluent German. She actually grew up in Switzerland, so like there was that aspect of it, as well as probably the fact that he's a Catholic character. Not that I'm Catholic anymore. I'm pretty a-religious at this point, but I was raised Catholic, and that was definitely probably something that maybe I related to with that character subconsciously. I definitely didn't think about that as a kid, but there certainly is the possibility of that being there.
I'm so sorry if you hear the plane outside.
I don't, but
okay.
Is it low flying?
I think so.
It sounds
it might even be a helicopter.
Oh God. The one last thing about Nightcrawler specifically is if you've ever played the X-Men arcade game from the 90s, I always chose Nightcrawler. He had a really good, you had like a special attack. It was called your mutant power, which makes sense. And his was really good. You would hit it, he would teleport across the screen and pretty much just kill all the bad guys on the screen.
That's awesome.
So yeah, it was a pretty OP move. So I always chose Nightcrawler, and that definitely put that character ahead of a lot of my other favorites, like Wolverine and stuff when I was a kid.
That almost reminds me of the star from Mario.
It's what it was. A lot of the characters, they did cool things, but most of their stuff, I felt like they were more contained into like a certain area, like kill all the bad guys in a certain area. But Nightcrawler's was a little OP.
Gotcha. So my second question for you is, what is your goal in collecting comics? Like, what is your ultimate goal?
Pokemon, man, gotta catch them all. No, that'd be a bad. Anyone that's trying to catch every single comic is in for a task that is impossible.
Definitely.
I just want to own cool stuff to talk about, to show people, cool pieces of history. I have some very specific things that I collect. My personal collection mainly consists, the vast majority of it is Amazing Spider-Man, because I'm trying to collect every single Amazing Spider-Man comic, which is a feat. I have volume 2 through 6 completed at this point. So I think I need 17 books from volume 1 and I'm done. But issue number 1, issue number 2, issue number 5, issue number 10 and 13, like a lot of the early issues are the ones that I need. That being said, there's that. I collect Golden Age Batman and I collect pre-code horror. Those are my main things. I also collect Frank Miller Daredevil and Chris Claremont X-Men. I'm complete on both of those full runs of Chris Claremont X-Men and Miller Daredevil, but I'm always trying to get higher grades. So there's always that like kind of notch up that you can do once you have all the books in the run that you want. You can kind of go from there. Definitely some bigger books are hopefully online for the future. Like, AF-15 is an absolute grail of mine. That's kind of the attainable grail. Like, I don't think I'll ever own a Batman 1 or a Detective 27, but I certainly can afford at some point, especially if I do a partial trade and cash, whatever, a low grade AF-15. So that's kind of the, I wouldn't say the end goal, because I don't really think there is an end goal to collecting, but that's like the I made it moment.
Gotcha. So Tessa wants to ask you this next question. This was actually meant to be her last question, but she wants to ask it now.
He told me to ask this.
I did not.
Yes, you did.
I suggested it.
Yeah, order's important.
How do you feel about RDJ's doom?
So when that rumor started going around, like just a few weeks ago, people were like, "Oh yeah, RDJ's." I laughed at everyone. Josh wanted to put it in the rumor mill on Comic Book Canon, which, for those of you out there watching, is a show that I do on Sunday nights, where we talk comic news and other stuff. And Josh wanted to put it in the rumor mill section, and I was like, dude, this isn't real. This is just clickbait. There's no way that's real. It's so silly. And I was wrong. There's going to be times you got to admit it when you're wrong. I was wrong. Am I for it? I've heard a lot of arguments both ways, like, oh, this could be amazing. Then the argument of, this is just lazy on Marvel's part. They're getting the same actor back, blah, blah, blah. I think personally that he's such a good actor, and he knows comics, and he knows, like he said on the screen, he knows complicated characters. I think he's going to kill it. And I think they can do so many cool things with it, whether it's, Chris Evans or Tom Holland or someone seeing him without the mask for the first time and recognizing him and be like, Tony? And whether it's a Tony as Doctor Doom or if it's him as a variant of Victor Von Doom, none of us know yet. So there's just so many different avenues they can go down with this multiverse thing. And I think it will be a good way to culminate the multiverse, which is kind of important here. It has not been off to a good start. And I think a lot of people are, a lot of more casual fans are getting confused by it. A lot of more hardcore fans that even follow everything are not really happy with how it's panning out. And then definitely the Jonathan Majors thing and Kang being out of the picture here is definitely a big fall off. So I think it's going to be a good way for them to snip the multiverse, go back to one mainstream continuity, and we'll see what happens over the next we got 3 years until Secret Wars comes out, and that'll probably cap things off.
Oh man. So first thing, Comic Book Canon is an amazing show, by the way. I love it.
Thank you. Awesome. Listen, that shout out to Jeff and Chris. They started it. I just hopped in halfway through and have been doing it for the past little bit. Hell
yeah. It was a good decision on your part, because I know you have a lot of fun with it too.
Oh yeah.
So all right. So I know you mentioned AF-15, but what is your dream comic book?
I mean, if I could have a dream book, like, if money was an option, I win the lottery tomorrow, whatever. It's Detective 27.
That's a good answer.
It's
a great answer.
Yeah, like, AF-15. You look, I'm big on numbers. If you look at the CGC census, there are less than 100 on census of Detective Comics 27. I think it's like 90 something. Maybe it's 100 at this point. I haven't checked in a while. Every once in a while a new one gets put in there. And I'm sure there's raw copies floating around, but let's say there's around 100 copies of that book, available on the market, including the one that just got found at a, yard sale a couple weeks ago.
I saw that. That was crazy.
Insane. There's over 2,000, I think close to 3,000 AF-15s on the census. Wow. So while those books are definitely like very high up there for me, given that they are major grails, there's a huge difference between a book that came out in 1962 and a book that came out in 1939 in just availability. So yeah, I'm going to go with the Tech 27 over the ASM. And a lot of people argue with me whenever I say this, and they're like, Action One. I understand he was first, but I just don't care about Superman nearly as much as I care about that. That's just how it is. So I'm gonna go Batman, go Tech 27.
I can agree with the not
Yeah.
caring about Superman. All right. So this is a question that Tessa and I both came up with because, you know, the DCU is very topical right now.
Yeah.
And so the question is, who is your fan cast for Harley Quinn in the DCU?
Oh man. So this is a really tough one because I think Margot Robbie did a great job.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
Yes.
there were some not so good movies in there, but that wasn't necessarily her fault. I thought she played the role really well.
Yeah.
I am of the opinion that Lady Gaga is one of the most talented people on planet Earth. That being said, I don't think she's going to translate into the mainstream DC universe. She's just going to stay in that Joker universe, and her Harley Quinn is definitely a different take on Harley Quinn. Just like that whole universe is a different take on everything. You know, that's not the Joker that we think of. That's not the Harley Quinn with the the accent that we think of. Man, this is a really tough one. I'm going to go with someone, and I might get some pushback from this one. I think she's one of my favorite actresses, and she's definitely a celebrity crush as well. And that's Mae Whitman. I don't know if you know who that is, but she's not super popular. She was on Arrested Development. She played Michael Cera's girlfriend in a couple seasons. She was in Scott Pilgrim. She was the evil ex-girlfriend. And she's on a show called The Good Girls. Or I think that's what it's called. I don't know. I don't watch that show, but I think she could do a good job. She's a little short, spunky, like very energetic character when the time comes for it to be energetic, but also can be like very like calm and like in the background. So her her whole two personalities of her being this psychiatrist, Harleen Quinzel, and then just absolutely going bonkers and being this super hyper aggressive character. I feel like she could pull that off. And like I said, she's someone who I enjoy watching, so I'll go with her.
All right. All right. What is our? Oh, okay. So I got a bit of a strange question for you, like a very strange question.
Like a Doctor Strange question?
No.
Okay, cool.
So this kind of relates to anyone who is married and collects and everything like that. How does your wife feel about all the comics all over the house?
It's definitely a point of contention, that's for sure. I've been trying more and more to keep things in the 2 comic book rooms because I'm fortunate enough to have 2 comic book rooms at this house. So I did end up getting storage units as well. So things are, I have a lot. I have a lot more than most people because I not only collect comic books, but I also sell. So I have my personal collection as well as inventory, as well as collections that I've bought that I'm trying to get to process, but it takes time to do so. My best suggestion for anyone, whether you're a collector or you're a dealer or whatever, is just stay on top of things. One of the big things that really hurt me is when I moved into this house, I bought a huge collection the week that I moved. Like, literally the day after I moved into this house, I bought a huge collection, and I never recovered from that as far as being caught up. I had already kind of built up a bunch of inventory and stuff that I had not had a chance to process and stuff because of the selling my old house and moving. And it did not get any easier once I moved into this house and bought a bunch of stuff right away. So I did not keep up with it. And honestly, I am still hitting pockets of like, oh man, I remember I bought this collection in 2022. Like it still happens. I've got a couple hundred long boxes in total. So it's a lot to manage. So yeah, don't fall behind on your organization. That's just as important as anything else.
Gotcha. Go ahead.
Favorite comic book movie?
Oh man, I think there is one movie that stands out as the best comic book movie to me, and it's a movie that whether you're a fan of comics or not, there's just so much behind it. You don't need to go. You don't need to know anything about the comics. You don't need to know anything about much of the background of anything. And not only that, but it also has like a bunch of historical elements into it, and nonfiction and historical fiction are two other categories of things that I really enjoy, and that is V for Vendetta. And yeah, which if you haven't seen that movie, I suggest everyone out there go watch that movie. It is, in my opinion, the best comic book movie of all time. Beyond the MCU, beyond any of the Batman films that we've gotten, and even beyond the other Alan Moore movie, which is great, which is Watchmen. I think V for Vendetta really just does the trick.
Gotcha. I have not seen that movie.
Oh, dude, pop open Netflix tonight. What are you doing?
I have the first issue.
Okay.
Of the comic.
Yeah.
I also have the full run of Watchmen.
Okay.
But
Alan Moore is one of the greatest. But yeah, definitely watch that movie when you get a chance.
Gotcha. So, final question here.
Ooh.
We need a piece of advice for new collectors.
Dinner can be done. Okay,
this is a good one because I feel like new collectors. A lot of people, one of the big problems is they don't know where to start and they just dive in, and they start buying everything. And whether they're buying everything, from a comic store, or whether they're buying everything online, or whether they're buying, graded books or raw books, they usually amass more than they should up front. Just like with anything, you really should learn. You should start slow and learn things before diving right in. Not just, what books you want to collect and what's your favorite things, because like I said before, no one can collect everything, but also like condition of the books and how common books are. At this point, Danny, you've been in this for a while. If you see a comic that was printed in the 1990s, you're probably going to see that book again on a regular basis. But if you see a comic from the 1940s or 50s, or even some stuff from the 60s, you might not come across those every day, just because they're a lot less out there. So yeah, my best piece of advice is just kind of take it slow and learn. Pick something that you like. Don't go out there and buy every key or every run, every character you've ever heard of, because it's just too much. Pick a run that you'd like to, fill out and you'd like to read. Something as simple as, the early 90s Spider-Man run, or the early 90s X-Men one that started with, issue 1 in 1990 and 1991. Those are great because most of those books are dollar bin books.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so you can kind of just pick and choose. Dollar bin books are a great place to start, because if you blow $100 on dollar bin books, you have 100 comics there. You've got some stuff to read and stuff. If you're buying like keys, even if they're $10-$20 keys, cheaper things, you're gonna spend a lot of money, and maybe it won't be the best buy. But you can't really go wrong buying dollar books, because you have, at the very worst, a nice little reading material, 20 minutes to sit down and read something for $1. It's not a bad deal.
Right. I actually did. We did go to. Our last video was a big dollar sale.
Yeah. You're at the shop that you're now a part timer at, huh?
Yeah, actually, yep. And I'm trying to find. Boom! Best find of the whole haul.
Solid $10 book.
Yeah. Super happy with that.
Yeah, and that's also the fun of it. Like,
I got that box too.
Ooh, yeah, my LCS has that box. I look at it every week and I'm like, that's cool, and then I don't buy it. I have so many boxes at my house. It's ridiculous. But yeah, that's like I said, like I have books that are worth a lot of money. I have a couple books that are, you know, in the thousands, and still to this day, dollar bin diving is some of the funnest funnest times I have do with comics. Whether it's me looking for something for myself, that I want to own. Like recently, I found a full run of Sensational Spider-Man, which is the Ben Reilly Spider-Man run from the '90s, all in dollar bin. It's like 30 some issues. I probably bundled them together. I probably paid like $20 for it or something like that. Whether it's for my personal collection or, finding a $10 key, $20 key or whatever in a dollar bin and selling that to fund my collection. Either way, it's enjoyable. So start slow, go for the dollar bins, work your way up.
Oh yeah. So I have one last surprise question for you.
Ooh, okay.
Actually, it's two.
Oh,
First and foremost, just for the stream, could you say "It's Britney, bitch" one more time?
It's Britney, bitch.
All right, and last and certainly not least, can I have your ASM 14?
No, actually, you can't for multiple reasons. The biggest one being I sold all of them.
Oh no, that's crazy.
Yeah, so you might remember a couple months ago I sent in 3 to get graded, and I was like, I'm gonna keep the highest grade one, and I got a 2.0, a 2.5, and a 3.5, I think, and I really was hoping the 3.5 was going to be a 4.0, and because that's the grade I really wanted. So because I didn't get that grade, I was like, you know what? If I just sell all of these, I can use that money to buy a higher grade one, maybe even like a 5.0 or a 6.0, somewhere in that range.
Yeah.
And I ended up putting them all up for sale, and multiple other things I wanted came along, and I spent the money on those things instead of. So I actually do not have an ASM 14 right now in my personal collection. Which this is another piece of good advice, and this is more for a little bit more seasoned of a collector, not necessarily a beginner. But if you were planning on buying something like an ASM 14, if something else comes along, it might be better to put the money towards that, depending on what it is. In this instance, I used the money for an ASM 14 on some pre-code horror stuff. Pre-code horror is much less plentiful than a major Amazing Spider-Man key. You can go to any con and you could probably find 10 copies, at a bigger con, or probably like 3 or 4 copies at a smaller con of ASM 14. Some of these rarer pre-code horror books, there's only, a few copies in existence. So it's sometimes you have the money put aside for one thing, but another deal comes along that just is a better option.
Yeah. I can agree with that one wholeheartedly. There's been multiple things that I've wanted to get, and then all of a sudden something else came along, and I was like, that would probably be a better choice.
Right. And it's always a matter of, collect what you like, and your likes change over time. I used to really gravitate towards a lot of the runs that were coming out when I was a kid. X-Force, Excalibur, X Factor, all those runs and stuff like that, that were really popular in the mid 90s, the early to mid 90s. And, I don't own any of those runs anymore, just because quite honestly, most of those runs aren't very good. The stories in them aren't very good. It was a struggling time for the comic book industry. So that's something that I've gotten rid of all those runs. But not to knock anyone else if you do collect them, but taste changes, and it's always good to be able to, trim down every once in a while. Every collector does it, other than the ultra hoarder collectors. But everyone does it every once in a while. Go through and say, do I need this? Do I want this? What's the lady on TV? Does this spark joy? And if it doesn't spark joy, you get rid of it.
Right. Yeah, I had to go through a bunch of my stuff too, and just get rid of it, because it's just either just not good stories, or it's just things that I'm not into anymore.
Yeah. I mean, if you love a run, keep the run. You know, if it's something that's important to you and you want to go back and revisit it someday, but if it's a run that you read to, you know, to get through, to bridge two things together, or because it was a tie-in with, you know, an event or something, and you weren't really into it, you don't need to keep it.
Right. Yeah. Well, do you have any other random spontaneous questions for Joe, man?
Mm-mm.
All right, Joe. It's been fun, man.
Gotta go.
Yeah, dude. Thanks for
It
having
has
me.
been fun. Absolutely. I hope you know I don't actually want your ASM 14.
That's okay. I don't have one anyway. So
Well, when you get another one, because I know you will, you know, that's yours, man.
yeah.
You found it fair and square. All right. Everybody for watching, thank you. Thank you so much. Please subscribe to us. Subscribe to Joe over on his YouTube channel. Go ahead and follow him over on Instagram as well. He hosts claim sales every single week.
That's the better place to find me. I don't post much on YouTube
Yeah, I was just about
anymore.
to say, he
Yeah,
doesn't
it's more
post much
it's
on
more just
YouTube.
short content.
It's all short. It's all just my Instagram reels, posting them on YouTube.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, hey, what happened to that, by the way? You used to do long videos all the
I
time.
know. I don't have time anymore. I just do not have the time.
I understand. It
That
is hard
makes
to find
sense.
time.
Maybe someday. Maybe someday. Not right now.
Gotcha. Well, with that being said and all out of the way, Joe, thank you for coming on the show today. We will see you. You're going live what, Friday?
I might have to move around my schedule this week a little bit. Friday is a maybe. I'm gonna do definitely Saturday and also possibly Thursday. We'll see kind of what my week turns out like.
All right.
Okay.
Well, hey guys, go check out his Instagram live stream on Saturday. Claim sale, obviously. So, and of course, check out Comic Book Canon over on their YouTube channel on Sundays. I can't speak English. Every Sunday live show, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And thank you guys for watching. Go ahead and subscribe, hit the post notification bell, and we will see you guys in the next video. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Peace.